What other silly ways have I lost? I've lost in a lot of silly ways. Oh, did I tell you about the most epic one? Oh. Many of you probably know about this one. But the stupidest way I've ever lost in any high-level tournament. This is Grand Prix Krakow. Okay? Grand Prix Krakow. I flew there with Luis. We were chasing some pro points at the end of the year. That was a time when not too many people really traveled like across different countries for tournaments. Like only a couple people, like Saito, Shuhei, etc. But there was a GP in Europe, and we were like, we really needed pro points to try to hit the next level, to try to hit platinum. So we went, and I'm playing Blue-White Pickles. All right. So for those of you guys who don't know what Blue-White Pickles is, it is a prison. It's a deck. It's a control deck. It's a blue control deck with counter spells, card draw, and a lock, which with Brine Elemental and Vesuvian Shapeshifter. Where if you unmorph Brine Elemental, your opponent doesn't get to untap, and then Vesuvian Shapeshifter, when you unmorph it, you can copy a creature on the board, and you copy the unmorph ability. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you can remorph it. So every turn you just flip Shapeshifter with Brine Elemental in play, and you lock them out. Alright, so I'm playing against an Elvis player at the Grand Prix, and me and Luis hash out this sideboard plan. Back at, these days, sideboards are well-tuned, people test matches, figure stuff out. Back in the day, me and Luis, night before the tournament, we would just look at our cards and be like, alright, what are some sweet sideboard options? And we added Magus of the Tabernacle last minute in the sideboard of our Blue-White Pickles deck. So I boarded this Magus of the Tabernacle in against Elves. And, it was back and forth game. Game three. I make an attack. My opponent untaps. Pays for Magus of the Tabernacle. Attacks me with all of his creatures. And I'm like, oh, man. This is a lot of pressure. I'm going to die. And I'm like, all right. Yeah, I block one of your creatures. And, my opponent has lethal on the next attack. So I'm like, all right. Well, I better draw something nice here. So I untap, pay for Magus of the Tabernacle, draw for my turn, and it's a blank. And I was just like, well, I guess you got me. So I conceded the game and signed my slip. A few moments later, I realized. Lomax Gaming, thank you very much for the sub. A few moments later, I realized that my opponent had attacked me with all of his creatures. My opponent was at 2 life. My opponent was at 2 life. Magus of the Tabernacle is a 2/6 creature. All I had to do was untap, pay, and attack. Game 3. Yep. Yeah. So after this, I tell this guy named Rasmus Sebast. He used to be a Danish pro, and we were staying in the same hotel room, and I tell him the story. And he was like, oh my god, I would be on such tilt if that happened. And I was like, well, thanks. That's reassuring. Thank you. No, because I wasn't on tilt when I was telling you this story. Oh, man. That's nothing. I conceded when my opponent was at 5 life with Fiery Temper and K Command in hand at a GP. That's also pretty bad. I mean, I just had to attack. Like, he had no creatures. He punted and then I repunted. He's like, you can have the game. And I was like, no, it's cool. It's cool, bro. You can have the game. And you know the sick part, by the way? Oh my god. So, this guy, my opponent, was remembering and paying for all my Magus of the Tabernacle triggers, right? The next round, he plays against Luis, who's playing the same deck as me. Games 2 and 3, both times forgets to pay for Magus of the Tabernacle. He untapped and drew his card for his turn. Games 2 and 3. And wrathed his own board. But against me, he remembered. Come on. Come on. You know the sickest part about this story, though? I won that Grand Prix. I don't think I deserve to win that Grand Prix, but I did win that Grand Prix. Also, did that deck that we played ever have success at a standard level ever after that? No, because the deck was awful. Deck was awful.